It's very hard to explain to anybody how you feel when you get diagnosed with cancer. I had to have life-changing surgery, and if I didn't have life-changing surgery, I wouldn't survive. I had a routine smear and didn't really think anything of it. Got the results back to say that I had borderline abnormalities and high-risk HPV. Didn't know what HPV was at all, completely panicked. I went for a colposcopy. I then had a biopsy. The biopsy diagnosed a cancerous tumour, and from there I had a hysterectomy. It takes a while to actually know that you won't need further treatment after the operation. So in a sense, I was in limbo for quite some weeks, if not months, before I actually knew this was the end of it and we could start to move on. But I was really, really, really lucky for two reasons. First of all, they caught the cancer before it spread. I had a hysterectomy, but I didn't have to have any further treatment. So I didn't undergo chemotherapy and radiotherapy and the kind of prolonged invasion in your life and impact on your health that would have on yourself and your family. But also I was lucky because I'd had my children, and I think about that quite a lot. There are lots of women who get cervical cancer before they've had children, and they want children. And I had cervical cancer because I had HPV. The more I talked about HPV and cervical cancer, the more I realised how deeply rooted the stigma is. HPV was something that was sexually transmitted, and that people would presume things about me if they knew that I had cervical cancer. And I felt an element of shame in my diagnosis. And I want to challenge that stigma, because nobody should feel shame from having HPV, and certainly nobody should feel shame from getting cervical cancer. In one conversation, when I was telling somebody about having cervical cancer, they made some comment implying about what I was like when I was a teenager, and I was totally thrown because it was totally inaccurate. The implication was, you must have got HPV because of something that happened before you got married, and that's not the case. I was just unlucky. I've happily given my son the HPV vaccine, and I was so relieved when he came home having had his vaccination. He's protected, his future partners are protected, and how wonderful that the vaccine was available to him. With the vaccine, I think there is this idea in the Orthodox Jewish communities, as with other faith communities, that if I teach my child not to have sex outside of marriage, for example, then they won't get HPV, so therefore I don't need to vaccinate them. I can't understand why somebody wouldn't vaccinate their child if they knew and understood that they're vaccinating their child to protect them from something that could destroy their life. So parents have a choice to protect their children.